Dan Ritter joins us, Brodbeck Seeds, in Wabash, Indiana, a little further east than what your typical territory is. And as you made your way over from the western part of Indiana to points further east, Wabash specifically, how would you compare the crops?
Well, I would say from the area I work, again, in western Indiana, we finally did get the weather to straighten out. And I would say, for the most part, we have a fairly good crop. I will parse that with fairly good crop. I think once the weather straightened around, we've been getting some timely rains, and that's helped us out tremendously. Now, as we go south, there are pockets here and there that certainly could use an additional drink here and there. And I tell my growers when they ask what the condition of the crop is, I said, what condition do you want? And I can probably show you a field that's in all different conditions. So it's scattered from community to community as far as what the condition of the crop is and how it looks. But I've been impressed with how well, given the stresses we had early on in the season, that these crops have responded and basically tried to heal some of the issues they've faced throughout the year. That said, I think probably the biggest concern from my standpoint is where we do have good crop going is just how much the number of plants, how much of the actual crop is out there from the standpoint of we had some thin stands in areas due to seedling blight, to some areas where they were ponded. And I think that might be the biggest determinant in what our ultimate yields are going to be across some of these fields.
And you didn't say the word variability, but it has definitely been a year of variability, even in the good areas. That's
true. And so when you were asking about the crop condition, and it varies from region of the state to town to neighborhoods within the town, and how they were setting as far as some of the lack of rain, or then in sometimes obviously this year we had too much rain in some cases. So yeah, it's been quite variable. And again, I've just been impressed with how, at least to this point in time, the crop has responded and kind of turned the corner in a sense.
Let's talk about soybeans. August, of course, a month so important to soybeans, and just today we've received in a pretty good swath of Indiana some rains, probably some very helpful rains in a lot of cases. Other places we're hearing maybe only got a trace. But how important have these rains been just today and in the last couple of days?
I think vitally important. I think most of our soybeans that across at least the area I work in they are in that stage where they can still benefit obviously from these August and early September rains. Now I heard that we have a customer that's got some very early soybeans out in southern Indiana, and they cut those, so obviously the rain isn't going to help them by any means, but for the most part the bulk of our soybeans are going to be able to benefit from these rains and really top off the tank and add to seed size and weight. So very crucial rain, not only for the soybeans, but I would say for a large portion of our corn as well.
As we approach harvest season, are there any specifics that you would like to pass along to farmers to consider?
Well, one of the things I always say is to really, we focus on scouting our crop June-ish, late May, throughout the growing season, but we get to this time of year and sometimes we back off of our scouting regimen. And what I encourage folks to do is go out, walk their fields now, be earmarking those fields that, hey, I'm seeing a little more disease here, perhaps I need to watch for the stalk integrity if we're in a field that's very stressed, and let's work on getting a harvest schedule lined up, especially as we get into, say, mid-September. Let's start looking at which fields we want to put on the harvest schedule first to manage our harvest and get that crop in, and as I always say, get it in and under roof as soon as possible. So that's one of the things I would stress. And then also with some of our scouting, be looking at, okay, I made this, maybe I made a fungicide application, maybe I made a certain herbicide application, really looking at the efficacy of what we've done out there and getting that first little bit of information of how well did the management practices I put together work this year for me. And then ultimately, we're going to have data off of our yield monitors, but it kind of gives you a sneak peek at what we did from a management standpoint and how well that worked.
What would you expect, speaking of stalk integrity, the stalk reliability to be on average, and obviously it's going to be variable, but on average going into harvest?
I would say in most cases I think it's going to be fairly good. Now, again, we've had some stress in those fields where we've had pretty severe stress and that corn is struggling, or in those cases where we've lost a significant amount of nitrogen and that plant is basically using the stored carbohydrates in a lower third of its stalk. We might look at those fields that have some additional stress. Good example is here at our research and demonstration farm, we had some hail. So in those cases where we've had hail, we have the integrity of the leaves jeopardized, and in those cases we might be looking at, okay, how well did those hybrids handle the stress? So if you had that, say a weather event, say we've had issues early on in the season where that plant struggled, again, as I'd mentioned earlier, low nitrogen situations, those are the places I would look at first. So those areas where we're concerned, where we've really kind of pushed the limit of our hybrids, look there first. Then if we got those fields that are really doing well, the soil's well, they haven't been under stress, then those might be areas of less concern. But given, again, the theme here has been the variability, get out there, walk your fields, find those spots where you might have issues as far as stalk integrity, and let's address them, and again, get those in under cover as soon as possible.
Next, of course, will be 2018, and you shared today some ideas about hybrid selection for 2018. Talk about some of the key points you'd like folks to consider, and also the fact that there's new technology out there available in corn from Brodbeck Seeds and Dow AgroSciences in 2018 called Enlist.
Yes, that's true. So we will be able to market our PowerCore Enlist hybrids this year, and we have approximately, I will say, about a half a dozen products that work well within the area that I work. So as I encourage growers, as they're out there making hybrid selections, to look at those products, see if that technology works on your farm and works for you, as well as make that hybrid selection based on the traits that work, again, for what you as a specific grower might be looking for. So a solid selection of products. I encourage you to stop by or talk to your local Brodbeck seed representative about dialing in the exact products that's going to work for your farm. So we have a broad spectrum of trait options available, and some folks want one certain trait package, some folks want another one, and again, that's an individual choice for your operation. And again, just encourage our growers to sit down, have that discussion with their local representative, and choose a product that's going to, bottom line is, make them most profitable.
And just how excited are you about the PowerCore Enlist product lineup?
Well, I think the greatest excitement is that the availability of one more tool in the toolbox. And I think anytime our growers can have one more tool to help them manage their crop, the better off we are. We're facing, it seems like, just an increasingly larger amount of challenges and stresses, and so if we can, in a sense, ease some of that from the grower's standpoint, I think that's a very positive.
Dan Ritter with Brodbeck Seeds. Great to talk with you, and we sure appreciate the update, Dan.
Well, thank you much, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you as well.